Hi, everybody. Welcome to our grade 12 college level chemistry class. I am so excited that you've decided to take it, and I look forward to having a great semester with you. We're going to spend a couple minutes here going over the course and giving you some ideas as to what you can expect to study and what I expect from you. Here's a little word wall of many different chemistry terms, most of which you have seen and should be able to recognize from your chemistry units in grades 9 and 10 science. There may be some terms here that you have not seen yet, and that is okay. We're going to take a whole course in chemistry. We're going to learn all kinds of new things. So why do we want to study chemistry? Well, chemistry is an incredibly fascinating field of study. I'm a bit biased as it's my favorite science subject, but it is fundamental to our world. It plays a role in everyone's lives, and it touches almost every aspect of our existence in some way. And as we go through the course, we hope to show you that. It is essential for meeting our basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, health, energy, and then clean air, clean water, clean soil. Chemical technologies enrich our quality of life in numerous ways by providing new solutions to problems in health, materials, and energy usage. Knowledge of the nature of chemicals and chemical processes. So this means, the way that chemicals behave and, standard reactions that can occur. If we know a little bit about that, then we can provide insights into a variety of physical and biological phenomena, meaning we can explain what's going on. And knowing something about chemistry is worthwhile because it provides an excellent basis for understanding the physical universe we live in. So why do you want to study chemistry? Well, many of you are taking the course because you likely need it as a prerequisite for some college program that you're taking. Some of you might be taking it for just personal interest, which is great. But either way, hopefully you've signed up for it knowing that you're going to be learning how to do all of these things right here. Okay, so things like think, problem solve, collect data, process objectively, reason deductively, organize your work, analyze, summarize, draw conclusions, communicate, write clearly. It's a lot that's going on. And as it says at the bottom here, in other words, it's really good brain exercise. Okay, you're only going to advance in your knowledge and your personal growth by taking this course, not go backwards. So what is chemistry? Well, it is the science that deals with matter and or materials within the universe, and then the changes that those matter items undergo, but also the energy associated with those changes. So that is something that we haven't really spoken to you about in 9 and 10 science. Chemistry is called the central science because it is sort of the main science where all the other ones branch off of it. Okay, so without elements on the periodic table, you do not have biology, you do not have physics as a result of it. You don't have any of these other areas that you see in this this wheel down here. So earth science and environmental science, they both deal with chemistry. Medicine, math, all have a role to play in chemistry as well. So when you think back on your course a science course in grades 9 and 10, and when you studied the chemistry unit in particular, you should recall that you carried out some learning and learned some knowledge in these areas. So matter and its properties and its changes. So there was physical and chemical properties and physical chemical changes. You learned about the periodic table. And when you did that, you learned how the periodic table was arranged. You did a lot of work with elements. You learned the structure of the atom, what makes up all of the different elements. You learned how to draw structures of the atom, so Bohr-Rutherford diagrams. In grade 10 science, you did some bonding. So there was ionic and covalent bonding. You also did some nomenclature. So you took chemical formulas or chemical compound names, and you either came up with the chemical name or came up with the chemical formula. And you also did some work on chemical reactions. And also, it's not on here, but likely with those chemical reactions, you talked about acids and bases as well. So what are we going to study in our course in grade 12 chemistry? So we're taking a full course on it now. We're going to cover 4 units, and the first unit is called Matter and Qualitative Analysis. So we're actually going to review a lot of things that we learned in our grades 9 and 10 course, but we're going to add on to them. Okay, so we're going to add on to some bonding. We're going to talk a little bit more about reactions, a bit more detail. We're going to focus on qualitative analysis. So, identifying unknown compounds. We'll do some lab work in that as well. Our second unit is going to focus on organic chemistry. So this is quite a large branch of chemistry. And we're going to focus mostly on hydrocarbons, which are molecules made up of hydrogen. Okay, you can kind of tell that. And carbon atoms. And they are a huge group of molecules. So we're going to focus on them, kind of, understand where do we use these molecules. And we're going to do a little bit of work on plastics as well. Plastics are classed as a hydrocarbon, but also an organic molecule. And we're going to look at some reactions of organic molecules. And we're definitely going to be focusing on how these molecules affect our health and wellness. They play a huge role in our day-to-day lives. We'll learn a bit more about that. In Unit 3, we're going to focus on the mathematical side of chemistry. So we're going to look particularly at chemical compounds, but also chemical reactions. And we're going to look at the relationships between these reactions in a mathematical way. Okay, so quantitatively means mathematically, so with numbers. So we will gear up and we will take a look at some new concepts here that you have not seen before, concepts called the mole, limiting reactant, percentage yield. And we do really cool chemistry here where we go through some mathematical calculations and then we can carry out reactions in real time and see how the numbers, should match up as you carry out some of these reactions. This unit is neat because this is true chemistry that is being done in industries all over the world. And the last unit that we're going to focus on is on environmental chemistry. So we do quite a bit on water, and we focus on water and we see how water affects all human, animal, aquatic, and plant life, both in good ways, but in bad ways. How can we clean up polluted water? We look at the different types of pollutants and also what's in clean water, right? Because there is stuff in normal drinking water that has a chemistry link to it as well. We're going to look at air quality as well. And we're also going to do some work on batteries and acids and bases here as well. So overall, we want to make sure that we understand that we have a responsibility to protect the integrity of the Earth's land and atmosphere. And we embed that throughout this unit and make sure that we have an awareness about that. Okay, so here you are, you're going to take a course in chemistry. What can you do to make sure that you maximize your efforts and get the best, outcome possible when the course is finished? So you are going to have homework to do throughout the course. And for each lesson, you're going to have a little bit of homework to do, and you have to do it. Okay, so I don't assign it for busy work. I assign it because it will help you be successful. I will also be checking it. Okay, so as you go through, I check what you're doing to make sure you are on track and that you're keeping pace with our lessons. You're going to learn new vocabulary. Okay, so you do have to understand what these terms mean and you have to know them. Otherwise, it'll be very confusing for you when you do an assignment or a quiz. You won't understand what they mean. Make sure you understand the concepts and do not just memorize facts. Okay, you cannot memorize your way through chemistry. It's very hard to do. There's always patterns in chemistry that once you find them and you notice them, it's very easy then for you to get a good understanding of the knowledge. Make sure you reread your notes. Okay, ask questions, please, as much as possible. Get help from me. I'll be floating around all the time, ready to help you. Make sure you study your class notes, any lab experiments that we do, any other activities. Go over all of these things before we have quizzes or a little test. And then make sure you practice by doing all the worksheets and homework assigned. And sometimes, we need to fail something, okay, in order to learn from those mistakes and then have a success waiting on the other side. Okay, so just keep that in mind as we go through. It's okay if we stumble and sometimes don't do our best initially, as long as we learn from it and improve. I have a few basic class rules. The very first one, as you see here, is do not come to our class late. Okay, I don't tolerate that at all. And if you do, you will be assigned detentions. Be in full uniform every day. I check for this, okay? And I look to see that you are in full uniform, and you can fully expect me to ask you to get into full uniform if you are not. If we're doing a large group conversation and somebody is talking, please don't talk over them or have a side conversation. It is rude and distracting to other people when you do that. Be honest and responsible at all times. Okay, so if ever we're in a situation where you need to sort of own it in terms of a mistake that was made or something, you dropped a ball, whatever, make sure you're honest about it and try to be as responsible as possible with due dates, all the work that you do in our class. I notice that, and it means a lot to me when I see that you are trying to follow this fourth rule. And cell phones are not needed here. I know you probably have one, and I know you'll probably bring it to class. I do not want to see it, and I do not want you to be distracted by it. If you are, I will take it from you. And I will give it back to you at the end of the class. Here's our course breakdown. So it's the standard, term is 70%, the final is worth 30. So when we do, we're going to do some like mastery checks along the way, some little quizzes, short little unit tests. Those are going to go under your knowledge category. Okay, that is worth 35%. Any labs that we do will be categorized as an inquiry mark. Communication comes from your labs and any kind of assignment that you do. And we do quite a bit of application work, actually, where we take these concepts that we learn and try to apply them to our daily lives in the form of some type of assignment. Our final 30% is going to have a lab study. Okay, so we're going to have that worth 5%. We're going to do 2 research papers worth 5% each. Okay, so for a total of 15, and then your final exam will be worth 15%. We do have a late policy in our science department, and you're going to be working through this course in a bit of a self-pacing way. So I'll be giving you guidance all the time as to when things are due, but we do have hard deadlines. So if I say to you, there's an assignment due on a certain Tuesday, let's say, it's due then. And I will give you generous amount of time in order to complete that assignment, get it handed in. And if you don't follow those deadlines, I will deduct 5%. Okay, per day as a late penalty as we go through the course. And I do need to tell you, I don't usually have to do that. I don't usually have a problem with students handing things in late. Most students are responsible, okay, honest and responsible, and they get their work in on time. There will be 2 opportunities. So if you know you are super swamped with something and you just can't get an assignment in on a certain day, I'm going to give you 2 extra day passes or grace days that ahead of time you can tell me you want to use them, and then you can hand in an assignment a day late with no penalty. And the last thing for us to go over about the course is a note on plagiarism. Okay, so plagiarism is when you take the work of somebody else and use it as your own. So just to remind you, all assignments are to be completed individually. Okay, and if you work with a friend, which is totally fine, you have to use your own words. Copying and pasting information from the internet or copying from books or from friends is completely unacceptable. So summarize any information that you use into your own words. And if you choose to plagiarize, because it is a choice, okay, hardly anybody unknowingly plagiarizes, okay, it's a choice. You will be required to redo the assignment or a different assignment. Your parents or your guardian will be notified, and we may assign a late penalty or a plagiarism penalty if required. Okay, so our last little bit here is just that I do hope you enjoy the course that we are about to embark on together. I love teaching chemistry. I think it is the most interesting subject, and I try my very best to get you to study ideas and concepts that are related to your life, and that we do some lab activities and different activities in class that, again, enhance the learning and show you a link to your everyday life. I look forward to teaching you this semester, and I hope you have a great one ahead.